been pretty dreary and cool and rainy for a bunch of days. It'll be so for another bunch of days. It really makes me appreciate that we don't depend on big machines to be able to get our season up and running. We can go out there with a shovel and start planting and all that. But having a space like this high tunnel, 14 by 50 foot high tunnel, where we can get out of the rain and make productive headway in our gardening season while it's kind of dreary weather is really helpful. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time in this high tunnel. I thought I would do an update as to where it is this time of year. I don't remember when the last video was that I was documenting what we're up to this season, but I'll link to it here in case you are interested. And it certainly was not like this. It is greened up quite a bit, pretty astronomically in the last little while. Lots and lots to show in here. I'm moving kind of quietly because I know Sasha would be mad if I was loud and disturbed this little friend. Our compost heat is providing a really nice respite for a bunch of different snakes. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 on this compost pile enjoying the 80 to 90 degree temperature that still is being provided. Well, let's see, it's dropping down a little bit, but it's providing 70 just at the soil surface, and then with additional sun energy coming in, that seems like a nice thing for these little friends. The walkways are a little bit messy right now. We are going through a transition moment of cutting back and pulling some of the cold weather crops that we've enjoyed for a while now. So there's arugula all through here. It still is here. It can rebound if it would like, but there's turmeric underneath that I think will start to sprout up pretty soon, and the arugula is bolting. So as time allows, we're cutting. We put them in the main walkway and then we harvest them out and send to the chicken yard. Sasha likes to take the catnip and shred that for the nesting boxes for the chickens. So we've got a couple different crops, I guess, like secondary crops that the chickens really enjoy rather than just throwing them in the walkway to rot. So we're moving the space more and more towards our summer crops. In fact, I look across the way, there's another wonderful friend. This is the reason why we have 0 voles in here. That is a big snake. Those tomatoes are decently large, probably about 12 inches tall. That's a 2 foot plus snake. I don't know what type it is. If you want to let me know in the comments, that would be great. We're not worried about them as far as our safety, but it feels important to be respectful of their needs since they're doing such good work in here. So as I work today, I'll move quietly around them. But you can see we've got dahlias planted over there, and then cultivar tomatoes. So those are all sun gold tomatoes every 12 to 18 inches. And to the south of them are sweet peppers. So we're doing really sweet, fun, enjoyable tomatoes along with sweet peppers, bell peppers, things like that. We'll do the hot peppers out in the field. Feels like this season our annual cropping understanding has gone up quite a bit, which feels very rewarding. So this is cilantro that is on its way to being coriander seed. I guess it's both at the same time. We've been harvesting a ton out of here. I sowed this maybe sometime in later March, and now we're in later May, so we've had quite a nice window with this. Parsley is bolting, which we'll let it do. Within reason, we'll let a few plants here or there bolt so we can collect some fresh seed, especially parsley. It feels like it's nice to have fresh seed from that. And then some of the other things that are excessive in here, wonderful and lovely, but like these mustards might go once we can't get through this walkway. This sea kale, once it's finished flowering and sets some viable seed, we'll cut back for another round of growth. And then we really need to be aware of and make room for the hot weather transition. So these are all figs, Vern's brown turkey figs that are coming up, and we'll need to thin a little bit where they block the walkway. But this was in lettuce just a week or 2 ago, so we finished eating a ton of salad greens out of here, and I pulled the rest of the plants so that the fig could pop through. You can see that same thing is happening here. So these are the dead stalks of last year's fig growth of the next plant over. I don't remember the name of this one. Here's some new growth for the season. There's one, and one coming up over there. I planted sweet peas to grow up the dead stalk, so we'll leave those for a little while. We'll get some food from them, even though they're just straight up carbon and lignin at this point. And then you can see the trick we play where there's figs slowly coming out of dormancy, but while the soil was bare for a while, we sowed it to lettuce and kale. We've been eating our way through that. Feels kind of compatible. So there's all this salad down in there that we can harvest, and then the fig can come through, finish up our salad, and move on to figs. A lot of salad has come out of here. Sasha will make 1 or 2 big bowls of salad pretty much every day if we can, and now we can, so we are. And it's we eat a lot of other things as well, but salad is one of those keystone things for us. We just really enjoy it, and it feels very, very good. And one of those things, like if you can get your own lettuce from your own space, especially where we're not using plastic, we're certainly not using any chemicals, it really is quite a delight, and it feels very nourishing. So lots of salad greens, but as it gets hotter and hotter in here, we're seeing it, we're going to transition it entirely to tomatoes in the center with peppers to the south, tomatoes and peppers to the south, release the figs from the cold weather canopy that was over them, and then try to thin out some of the annual things that are over beds where turmeric was last year, and we're going to encourage it to regrow. But today I'm going to spend some time, and wherever there's a string and not a tomato yet, I'm going to add a tomato. It seems silly to drive over here when we're literally neighbors, but it's easier to bring material over. I've got my little trailer hitch on this electric car, and this little basket, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of convenient when I don't need a full trailer full. But we've got some hyacinth bean and some peppers we got from a friend, and then peppers and tomatoes that we've stepped up from leftover seedlings from a neighborhood farm. So these are red pearl, sweet cherry tomatoes, and then Carmen, which I believe is a sweet Italian type of pepper. So I'm going to start setting those in. I met a neat guy a couple years ago who works for a New York State Conservation tree sale group, and he traded me some nursery plants for a bunch of these pots. I think these are considered tree trainers. They're maybe 3 by 3 by 8 or 12, and I'm realizing they're nice for trees, sure, but they're really great for annuals. So we can put a tomato that was really leggy all the way down at the bottom and build the soil right up so it roots the whole way up, and that gives it almost a little shy of a gallon of total compost around each plant. And we're starting to use that pretty extensively. Like these are all dahlias that we are, well, there's castor too, it looks like, but dahlias that we're sprouting, and they each get one of these tree trainer tubes for a while. We use milk crates to carry them, and then we can go out and plant them and then rinse the tree trainers and use them again. So even though it's meant for perennial crops, we're using them for annual crops, but that's kind of the vibe here. Everybody gets along pretty well. Feels a little spooky working next to this character, I'll tell you that much. I have a huge amount of respect for snakes. I think they're beautiful, and I really appreciate their work that they're doing. And I'll admit that working in here just a few feet away from that beautiful beast is a little spooky, but I'm just going to move slow and keep going. It's nice to see what these tree trainers do. You can see there's no crossing of the roots. So this is just straight compost sifted from our chicken's winter run that this tomato is in, and the roots got all the way to the bottom, and since there's a mesh on the bottom, they root prune. So kind of the same technology and techniques you would leverage for a really nice start to a tree is pretty appropriate. I don't know that I would go out and buy these. I know they're expensive, but if they're in the waste stream from conservation tree sales, I'm definitely going to use them for as many different plants as we can. I've got some water refilling this tank. Sometimes we use a pump in the big IBC tank on the other side. At some point I'll show that. We've got a 12-volt battery and wiring for a bilge pump that goes down into the bottom of that tank. And along this black hose, this black rubber hose, we can plug that in and get actual nice rose watering. But sometimes I like to just use the watering can and keep it passive. So I'm letting this fill up slowly, and then I can hydrate these tomatoes. I've still got a bunch more to do. We've got around 50 or so tomatoes that are going into high tunnels, and another 200 or 300 going out to a field. For some reason, we're just going big on tomatoes because it feels like a fun thing to do. These are all red pearl in here. Unfortunately, the snake friends skedaddled. I'll be honest, I'm a little relieved. They're off in the beets. I'll just not harvest any beets today. But we don't need to trellis any of this today. We just need to get them in the ground and hydrated. Some of the roots are longer than I was able to dig, so I just laid the root system horizontal down in the bottom and let the tomato come up. A lot of you already know this, but that trench method of burying the stem of a tomato is really beneficial. They just root much stronger. I'm running out of time here, but had a nice moment. I'm stripped down to a nice t-shirt in what was otherwise thermal underwear weather in late May, and yeah, got a bunch planted. I'd love to share what happened. I finished renovating and cleaning up this sun gold row, so the tomatoes in this section are centered in this area where the hoops are. There's 17 gauge wire that runs, and that'll help. They can be fed through that, and then we can do the single line management for them, pinch the internodes and train them. We'll share as that unfolds. So more sun golds down this line, filled it in, and then red pearl as a nice continued indeterminate cherry tomato. That's in and amongst some lemon verbena and some rosemary and ginger and some figs, so the real hot weather loving plants. And this side is the same treatment. These are the sun golds from the other day that the snake was sunbathing, warm bathing under a dahlia and tomato in cold weather. It's a really sweet offering that we get to have there. And then more tomatoes through the center of this bed. We'll keep updating as time allows. Oh, there's the big one. You can see them wiggling through the greens in there. So pulled out some older lettuces and, oh, it was a little one. Hello, little. There's a lot of snakes in here, my gosh. So there's 4 at the moment actively moving around, and we're just working around them. Anyway, peppers through there. We'll transition as time allows. Eat a huge salad, harvest some catnip for the cats, dig a hole, plant a pepper. Do a salad, plant a pepper, and just go right down the line. We'll share more as it all unfolds. Thanks for watching.